I want to now come to a little story for you before I finish up and tell you what really did happen when one of our brothers brought his child from a place of Iman to a place of Kufr, and what happened. One day when I was at Lackland Air Force Base in San Antonio, Texas, I used to be the Amir for the masjid over there many years ago on the Air Force Base. And a brother came to me. He was in the military, Saudi Arabia, and he was all excited. And he told me, "Today's the best day of my life. I'm so happy." I said, "Really, what happened? You know, maybe he got married. You know, maybe he, I don't know, did you get a visa for doing Hajj? Why are you so happy?" He said, "Today I put my son in American public school." I said, "What?" He said, "I put my son in American public school." I said, "Why don't you put him in the toilet?" He looked at me like, "Huh?" He said, no, brother, you don't understand. Maybe it's my English. I'm saying I put my son in American public school. I said, "Your English is fine. How's your Arabic? Why don't you put him in the hammam? Because at least when you take him out, you can wash it off." He turned and walked away from me. Over the years, we became good friends. I got to know him and his family. But the next time I saw him was the very next week. I saw him in the masjid again. And he had his face hanging down like, I said, "What's the matter?" "Oh, you know, this new school where I put my son, they got a problem." I said, "Yeah, only one?" He said, "They won't let my son use his name. They want to name him Fred." I said, "Why? What's his name?" "His name is Turkey. That's our name, you know, for him, is Turkey. We call him Turkey." I said, "Oh, that's a good name. There's nothing wrong with that. This comes from people who came from Turkey. Turkey used to rule all of Arabia during the Ottoman Empire. So what's the problem?" He said, "No, they won't let him use it. They said he has to be Fred." I said, "Well, what's his other name, a grandfather's name or any other name that you might have in his name?" He said, "Well, Omar." I said, "Tell him to call him Omar." And they did. Well, I'm going to skip forward 10 years. 10 years later, I moved to Washington, D.C., where I have my position now there as National Imam for the Muslims, and I happened to see this same brother in a gas station. I said, "Brother, Abu Turki, Salam alaikum." "Wa alaikum salam." "You live here?" He said, "Yeah, I live in Maryland. I'm working up here at the embassy." I said, "MashaAllah. It's good to see you." He said, "Let me get your number. I got to talk to you." I said, "Okay." He called me on the phone. He said, "We got to set up an appointment. You have to come to my house." I said, "Okay. Sure, why not?" So I went to the brother's house. I took somebody with me, and on the way over, I told him the story I just told you about putting your child in the toilet because it would be better. When we got to his house, he did the traditional thing that the Arabs love to do: sit on the floor, serve you some kahwa, you know, Arabic coffee, and some dates. And we're sitting there enjoying our company. And then he said, "Do you remember the first thing you said to me the day you met me?" I said, "I sure do." He said, "No, I mean really, do you really remember what you said?" I said, "Yes, I do. I just told him in the car on the way over. Ask him." He said, "You told me, when I told you that I put my son in American public school, you told me it would be better to put him in the hammam, in the toilet." I said, "That's right." He said, "You're wrong." I said, "Okay, I've been wrong before." He said, "You're wrong." He said, "You should have told me it's 10 times worse to put them in American school than it is a toilet." I said, "Brother, what's the matter?" He said, "I don't even know where he is." And he started crying. He said, "I don't have any idea. We don't see him anymore. He's just gone all the time." I said, "Does he have a car?" "Yeah." I said, "How old is he?" He said, 17. I said, 17 years old and he's got a driver's license? He said, yeah, we got his driver's license through the, And you bought him a car? Yeah. Well, I can see one problem already. Has he got a cell phone? Well, every kid's got a cell phone. I said, okay, call him. So we called him. And I talked to him on the phone. I said, hey, man, I'm over at your house. Come on over. He said, okay, cool. And he came over right away. He didn't want to talk to his father, but he sat down with us. And I got to it quickly. I said, you know what? You want to go with me? 2 nights from now, I'm going to go somewhere to give dawah. You want to go? He said, sure. I said, well, we're going to go to jail to give dawah. He said, what? So we're going to go to the prison, the sijin, to give dawah. He said, yeah, I really want to go. I said, okay. So we picked him up and we took him downtown Washington, D.C. to the jail there. And when we went in, he saw something amazing. Because the jail in Washington, D.C. has a chapel that they put in for the Christians. They use taxpayers' money to put in a whole chapel, complete with the organ, with the singing, with the whole bit. So the Muslims said, if it's equal rights, do we get to have a masjid? They said, okay. And they did. We have a place for wudu, we have musalla, and we even have a little niche, for the imam to stand in while he is leading the salah. And then after the salah, I gave some dars or talk for a few minutes. And I asked, would anybody here like to become Muslim? Because some of them were visitors, guests. And we had some raise their hand and they entered into Islam. And I asked them, are you sure you want to stop worshiping Jesus? You sure you want to stop worshiping yourself or whatever and worship only Allah? Meaning you got to do what he wants you to do and follow the example of Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. They all said yes and made shahada. Now I always cry when I give shahada. I can't help it because I always remember my own shahada. But when I looked over at this boy, I saw he was crying too. Tears coming down his face. Because he said on the way back, I never imagined what it was like to see somebody enter Islam. Islam is amazing. It's the only right way. This is coming from him now. Even though he's raised in a Muslim house, he didn't really see the example, I guess. Of course, his dad is busy all the time, working all the time, doesn't have any time. By the way, I asked permission from our brother to tell the story. He said, I want you to tell the story to the world because I want people to know the dangers of just dropping your child off in a non-Muslim school and not being responsible for him. So make dua for this brother, make dua for his son, because guess what? After they were separated for so long and they didn't know where he was, they all came back together